the other major political announcement that broke over the weekend involving the Justice Department, the president-elect's pick for FBI Director Kash Patel, just the latest in a series of nominees who's likely to face an uphill battle in a confirmation process, in part because of his lack of top-level law enforcement experience, but also because of his loyalty to Trump and what he has said he wants to accomplish as head of the FBI. Randy Kay tonight has more.
I'd shut down the FBI Hoover building on day one.
Kash Patel has big plans to shake up the FBI if he's confirmed as FBI director under President Donald Trump. He blames the so-called deep state for weaponizing government and going after Trump.
We are on a mission to annihilate the deep state.
His plan for the FBI's Hoover building, if he were to shut it down?
Reopening the next day as a museum of the deep state. And I take the 7,000 employees that work in that building and send them across America to chase down criminals. Go be cops.
Patel, as a House Republican aide, also accused the deep state and the FBI of fabricating a Trump-Russia scandal during the 2016 election, only to sabotage Trump. While an inspector general later found no political bias in the FBI probe, Patel criticized mistakes made in securing surveillance warrants.
I was the lead investigator where he exposed the Russiagate crimes that Comey, McCabe, Strzok, and Page and so many others committed.
Mr. Patel, did you answer any of the questions?
In 2020, when Patel was working in the Pentagon, he promoted Trump's false claims that the 2020 election had been stolen. Since then, he's threatened to prosecute journalists who dismissed the election falsehoods.
We're going to come after the people in the media who lied about American citizens, who helped Joe Biden rig presidential elections. We're going to come after you. Whether it's criminally or civilly, we'll figure that out. But yeah, we're putting you all on notice.
Patel also promoted Q, the so-called anonymous leader of QAnon, a movement that has spread conspiracy theories.
There's a lot of good to a lot of it. He should get credit for all the things he has accomplished because it's hard to establish a movement.
And Anderson, Patel actually got his start as an entry-level public defender here in South Florida. He then went on to become a federal prosecutor focusing on terrorism. And then he joined the first Trump White House as an aide and also worked at the Pentagon as an aide. But it is worth noting, Anderson, and this really does speak to his bravado, he has said repeatedly that he was the lead prosecutor in the Benghazi investigation into the attack on the U.S. compound in Libya where 4 Americans died. Well, it turned out he was not. According to the New York Times, he was just a junior Justice Department staffer at the time and was not part of the trial team, Anderson.
All right, Randy Kay, thanks very much. Perspective now from John Miller, our Chief Law Enforcement and Intelligence Analyst, from Trump White House Communications Director, Anthony Scaramucci, back with us from Michael Singleton. John, what is your reaction to Kash Patel?
Well, on paper, you could argue that he is a qualified candidate for FBI director as a former public defender on the local level, as a former federal public defender in the federal courts, and then as someone who, as Randy pointed out, arguably was a federal prosecutor, albeit not much in court, mostly in the national security branch of the Justice Department at headquarters. So there's that. The difficulty there is, even if he is qualified to some minimal level, is he suitable? And that has to do with the FBI director, and you can go back as many directors as you want, in the post-Hoover years, is supposed to fly above politics, be apolitical. Their politics are supposed to be invisible, a mystery. For someone who is so nakedly political, for a particular candidate, for a particular doctrine, to become the director of the FBI is really sending shivers through the hallways of the Hoover building.
Which I guess is part of, Anthony, the idea.
Trump likes that. I mean, the president likes that. So, listen, I mean, this is just my take. It's the same thing with Matt Gaetz. The president-elect feels he's got a slate of people that are MAGA people. He's going to put those up if they can get through. I think even he himself will be surprised by that. But he's doing that because he looks at his base and saying, these are for you. You know, Marco Rubio's for the governing. Somebody like Walsh would be for the governing. These are for the base. By the way, if they don't get through, I've got Pam Bondi right behind him 5 minutes later. And I think it's the same thing with Kash Patel. I don't think the expectation is that he's going to get through because just look at the obvious stuff. You just have to watch 2 interviews. Don't watch the snippets. Watch 2 interviews of Kash Patel with Steve Bannon. Watch the whole thing. And if you're a United States senator and you're a respectable Republican senator, watch the whole thing and then ask yourself, if you really love your country, do you want Kash Patel to be the FBI director? And I think the president will have somebody in the queue 5 minutes after he steps out of that position of nomination.
Sure, Michael. I mean, the president-elect's campaigned on disrupting the FBI. This is a guy who says he would shut down the headquarters on day one, promoted QAnon. Is he qualified?
I mean, look, I think based on what John said, he has some legitimate experience. Now, whether or not he is the optimal person, I mean, that's a bit subjective, I would argue. But look, I want to look at this a bit differently here, Anderson. I know we've pointed out some of the critiques that Donald Trump has had about various agencies within our government or the way politics or lawfare, as some Republicans will refer to it. But I would say that's not very different from what we just recently heard from President Biden in his statement about his own son. When he articulated a, quote, miscarriage of justice, or, quote, in trying to break Hunter, they've tried to break me. So it seems to me that the sitting president and the president-elect have very similar views on the FBI potentially, and maybe the Justice Department, in terms of politics infusing themselves into both of those different agencies.
John, we know what the FBI looks like when it's run by someone like J. Edgar Hoover. I mean, they targeted people all the time. They went after. I mean, Hoover had secret files on everybody. What happens to an organization if the head is not playing it straight? It is not trying to be kind of above the fray.
Well, I mean, that's what all this fear and loathing is coming from is, Kash Patel's statements about the FBI or about the intent of his role in any Trump administration that he made weeks and months ago pretends two things. One, you need to throw everybody out of FBI headquarters. Well, that brings the FBI 25 years back to before 9/11, where there wasn't an international terrorist operations center, a domestic terrorist operations section, a terrorist finance section, all of these things that call together these informations from 56 field offices and connect those dots. It's actually how and why we had a 9/11. So to dismantle that is to not understand.
Because that's one of the things that Kash Patel was saying, was send all the people working headquarters out back into the field and be cops.
Right, and the second thing is to make statements about we're going to go after people. Look, the Department of Justice guidelines, at least as they stand now, say the FBI is barred from investigating any activities that are purely First Amendment protected activities. He says we're going to go after critics and we're going to go after reporters. It's as if you're going from fidelity, bravery, and integrity to get you.
You've told my last presentation before I'm deported.
We've talked about, in the past, Trump used to say, when he was president, or he would reportedly had said, where's my Roy Cohn? It does seem like a lot of the selects he is making, to your point, are ideologues who he believes would be loyal to him.
Yeah, but I don't. Do you think he thought Matt Gaetz was getting through the process? You really think he thought that? I mean, I would find it hard to believe that he thought that. I don't.
I think he's throwing up a lot of different options.
Yeah, and he's got a very competent chief of staff in Susie Wiles. I don't. I see the Matt Gaetz thing as I'm going to throw that out there, see what happens, and literally within 5 minutes, because this is him, Matt gets hit by a bus and Pam Bondi shows up, for the next appointment spot. Kash Patel is dangerous, and if you put him in, and you're a Republican senator listening to this program, do your homework on Kash Patel. He is a dangerous person. He'd be bad for America, and he'd also be bad for Donald Trump. There's a question in the prompter about whether or not Trump is going to use the FBI as his personal police force. Well, I can tell you right now, America does not want that. America did not sign up for that. And if Donald Trump wants that, I think I would even be surprised by that. But I would tell you that Kash Patel wants that. Just listen to the way he talks to people. So if you're a Republican senator, do what you did on Matt Gaetz. Get in the room privately and say, hey, this is not going to happen. Now, the president could say, we're going to put him in place anyway. They'll have 200 days to run the FBI. But I don't believe that the president's going to do that. The president's going to say, you know what, I won the election. I've got a lot of good people that are going to come work for me. These were the MAGA people that I put in place. If they can't get through, let's move on. He's a successful politician, Donald Trump. Whether you like him or dislike him, he won the election. He has the right to put people up, but he can't put up lunatics. Okay, and I think this guy is in that category. And if he makes it, hopefully there's a place in your basement where you'll put me. I mean, this is sort of nonsense. The guy's out there saying that he's going to go after people for their exercising of their First Amendment rights. If that isn't disqualifying in this amazing country, what is, Anderson?
Anthony Scaramucci, thank you. John Miller as well, Sir Michael Singleton. Appreciate it. Coming up next.